we have the last class for JavaScript today, where we'll be discussing about promises, async, await, and callbacks. Apart from that, what we'll do is we look into web3.js and ether.js libraries. We'll go through their official docs and see a few sample codes that I have in my system to, see if you guys are able to understand, or is it like some more help that you need on the JavaScript side as well. Another pointer that I need to say is that when you're talking about Web3 or when you're learning Web3, it is going to be more of reading documentation and then writing code. So throughout the sessions for Solidity, where we are discussing about Remix and Solidity as a programming language or EVMs or whatever the system comprises of, we'll be doing like a lot of documentation reading. Okay, so I'll definitely bring in projects for you to understand and examples in terms of Solidity smart contracts. But what you should know is that we're going to read through documentations because you know that it's not a very matured ecosystem yet. And like you can't pick up a personal project and give an example or take examples just like that as we do in JavaScript, right? So in JavaScript, I can be like, okay, I want to create a class animal and monkey should do this, lion should do this, blah, blah, blah. Those examples and creating those examples based on concepts is easy, but when we're talking about smart contracts in general, it is a it's a, like it's the base of a proper working web3 project. Obviously we can deploy a lot of smart contracts doing basic stuff, but you can't like take just random examples and start building, right? So we'll do like a lot of documentation reading, we'll go a lot in the basics that we have done for JavaScript as well, and then you guys can try your hands on and try understanding codes. And for Solidity or anything in general, you got to first understand codes and then you got to write something of your own. And it's not gonna be like very easy. If you guys are aware of how things work in Web3, you should know like every blockchain that introduces its new language or a blockchain altogether, they will launch these playgrounds, they will launch these sample codes for you to understand. So for you to understand how their language works, because they're still coming up with a lot of version changes and stuff. So what you have learned 6 months ago might not be applicable today. It might be, removed from the language, or some other alternative has been put up. Anything can happen. So it will be like a lot of reading and a lot of work from your end and less work from my end. My end is to explain you at the simplest way possible, but you are supposed to do all the extra work of trying to experiment with the code and try deploying it and stuff. So that was me breaking the ice. Now I would like to go back to my question, where I want few people to answer how has the course been going so far for you in terms of JavaScript. Are you able to experiment something new? Did you build something new? Are you able to do the projects? Anything that you would like to, no, that you should speak up, not like to, you should speak up. Come on. Do you want me guys want me to pick you up at random, or are you gonna start speaking like by raising your hands or so? Anika, I can't
Hi,
speak
Sneha.
at. Hi.
Can I speak?
Yeah, sure. Go on.
Okay. So first of all, I just wanted to deeply thank you for this, for having all these interesting and amazing sessions. So I've been a React developer before. I was doing stuff really, really bad. I just got to know it just after having all these sessions. I was developing some projects like weather application, like a little bit complex projects which are without actually knowing the basics. So I got to know a lot. Like, I can't say how much I learned. Like, every day it's like a new learning. And also before these sessions, I used to be a little introvert kind of girl. But after this started, like, I was so interested and I started speaking up. And I think this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And in the last session, we were talking about the default constructor, which which I haven't got the perfect answer yet. If I was asking the bard, it gave me some of the stupid answers. And ChatGPT said JavaScript does not have a default constructor. And in Google, I haven't found like a proper answer. So I was a little confused on that. But to be frank, I'm so super happy and thankful for you. Like my even like my lecturers weren't this good, and the way you challenges it just gives us more energy to solve that. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Means a lot. I mean, you can see that I can just can't stop smiling with whatever you said. It's a huge thing for me as well because I was really worried how am I gonna deal with so many girls at the same time, and if you're gonna like the way I teach and if I'll be able to portray it to you in the right manner. But I think since even it's always about having impact, the right impact on people, and I am like so happy since you put up that intro factor. This is what we aim to get from the course, right? One-to-one interaction is very important. It takes a lot of time, but I think it does wonders once someone starts doing it. And yeah, we have all been through that stage where we just start getting into, tutorials and make like learn projects through videos, but I think going through the basics is pretty important, and if you do it alone it's going to be really boring, but if you're doing something in a cohort like this, it's a huge plus one for everyone, right? So yeah, thank you so much, means a lot. I'm never gonna forget with the intensity that you spoke up with, means a lot. I saw someone else raising hand. Yeah, Meghna wants to speak. Uh, yeah, even Prisha is like, I agree with so. Thank you so much.
Good evening, ma'am. Actually, this is the first time I'm going through something like JavaScript because I'm from ECE background and never touched such stuff. I thought that JavaScript was really important to learn and refer to many tutorials, but couldn't get what exactly JavaScript is and where do we use it and how Visual Studio Code was exactly used and stuff. But I really learned a lot and really got to know many new things which are really helpful for me, and really happy that I've like understood what JavaScript is exactly by your lecturers, which were really very cool and interesting, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for speaking up. Means a lot for the team and for me in general. Now I'm actually getting the motivation to start my own channel and start teaching people. I think I can do good. So yeah, thank you so much. I see Saidaman raising hand. Yeah, you can speak up. Today we are
First of
having a
all,
chat.
thank you so much, ma'am, because I became very comfortable with JavaScript kind of things. Before, I was a Python developer and I was comfortable with Python only because it is very easy with it, syntax and all that. But I have worked on projects, but I really don't know how that JavaScript actually works. And it's a bit confusing for me. But after these sessions, even I'm doing my own projects on my own, and I have currently started a new project also right now, including
That's nice.
JavaScript. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Good feedbacks makes me feel good. So let's start with today's session. I think there's a lot to appreciate for the Web3 Learn team as well, for Kiran and for Priyanka. They've been doing a great job. I would not have been here if they didn't reach out to me for the session and so, and if they didn't like organize such a cohort. So I think we should definitely thank Kiran and Priyanka as well for doing such an amazing job. Yeah, let's move towards the session. Okay, so yeah, so like today, first we'll talk like a little more about the theory segment, like I already mentioned. So first we have to talk about callbacks. Okay. Now, there's a very basic way to explain callbacks in like a layman terms. So, if you talk about the word callback in your real life, what would it mean? It's like so I give a call to anybody from the cohort, and you miss my call because you were maybe busy or occupied with something, whatever. So you give me a call back, right? So I do an event that is calling you, you miss it, and then you give me a call back. So similarly, in JavaScript, callback is talked about in terms of functions, right? So when you're trying to call a function inside another function, it's called callbacks. Okay, so if you're talking about callback as a function, right? So if you visualize it the right way, how would it look? So there's a function that you're creating, okay, and in general the function is creating using the function keyword, and there's a function name, and there are certain arguments that are to be passed, right? So in the argument, what you're doing is you're not passing any values, but you're rather passing another function inside it. So that is like you calling a function through another function, or passing a function inside another function, and that is how we do callbacks in JavaScript. Wait, my Visual Studio Code is still loading with okay, so yeah, it's there. Okay, so okay, now why do we actually need something as a callback is when we want to introduce asynchronous program, right? We have talked about it previously that JavaScript runs in a very sequential manner in the top-down order. So first things first, if there are like 10 lines of code, the line 1 will execute first, then 2, then 3, then 4, and so on, right? But there are some cases where the code must run after something else or some other event has happened and not in a sequential manner. Now, stating an example for that one, what we can do is, suppose you're building a project, okay? You're building a project that fetches data from an external site, right? You're using some external API or whatever is happening, right? So we got to wait, okay? We got to wait for that particular event to happen. So in that case, it might take a lot of time. You might not know what is the duration that it might take. If the server is slow, the site might take a lot of time to load, or if there's a lot of data to be fetched, it's going to take a lot of time for that data to come. So you can't just keep your system ideal, right? So that is like breaking the flow. Even though that code is running, that is breaking the flow in the synchronous manner. I think I've shown you an example to this one. If not, I'll show you an example. What happens is if you write like 3 lines of code, says print hello JavaScript, and then you use a set timeout or set interval function, and you say, the class is so interesting with like 5,000 milliseconds as the parameter. And then there's like, okay, class is ended, okay, bye, see you in next class. So what happens is, since the second line of code is talking about a function called set timeout, and it is supposed to wait for 5 seconds, the first line will execute, the second line will start execution, and the third line will print its output. And once the 5 second has been done, then the second line will print. Right. So that's basically breaking the flow of the JavaScript code execution. So in that case, we are using callbacks. So we used to we have better options now that comes in the form of promise, async, and await. So that is how callbacks work. It basically helps us to develop like an asynchronous JavaScript code. We are passing it as a parameter and passing a function inside another function. Set timeouts and other are like examples of callback functions, or because inside like set timeout function, you're passing another function that will be printed and stuff. So that is how you actually show that, okay, this is how callback functions work. I'll show you the code about that one. Then there's another thing called as anonymous function. Okay, so in that case, what is, we don't really define that we are passing this particular function. That function won't have a name, but what you're doing is you're just telling the computer that, okay, no, a function has to be passed inside the function, but I don't know what is the name of that function. So you're just putting it as like set timeout, and inside brackets, inside the argument thing, you're just putting function, and that function is doing something. It might just print something, it just might take you somewhere else, whatever it is, but you're not passing it. So here the callback function that we are referring to will have no name, and that is why we talk about it as anonymous function. And similarly, since we have talked about arrow functions, callback functions can also be written as arrow functions. You should just know how to write it with the arrow and everything. It works in the same like manner as you will write a function if you're trying to convert it into an arrow function. So there's no difference on that one. So what I mean to say all this while is, whenever you hear the term callback function, there should be only one thing that should be striking you. That is that a function is trying to call another function inside itself. That means for that particular function, the argument that we are passing is another function and not some random value or data. Then there's something called as events that we have talked about before, right? So if you're trying to use callback functions for such events, you should understand that when whatever event described, suppose it's about clicking a button, right? And you're putting that callback inside it. So you can just give an ID as callback button and click here, and only then that piece of callback function is going to be executed. If the user does not click on the specified button or does not perform the required event, the callback function won't be called. So these are basic situations where you can use callback functions, and why the only reason to declare callback function is to bring that asynchronous nature in JavaScript. Okay, so I'll show you an example for the callback function. Maybe we can do it directly through the promise stuff. Okay. Yeah. So that was on my screen. I hope you can see it. So you can see this piece of code. Okay. Ignore the ETH Denver JS refresher. It's an example from a class. Anyway, so you can see that so first you should really know that these topics that we're going to talk about today, like promises, callbacks, async, await, these are the major backbone when it comes to using JavaScript when we're talking about smart contract development and stuff in Web3. Okay, so if I try to run this, you can see that the first line says console.log. Let us start the session. Right. The second line is saying set timeout function console.log. The class is boring, and we have to wait for 5,000 milliseconds, that is 5 seconds. And then there's a console.log end session please. Right. So this case here is an anonymous function because we are not giving any name to the function. This is what I meant when I said that there's something called as anonymous function that we talk about when we are talking about callback function. So set timeout itself is a built-in function that basically skips the certain execution for a certain duration of times mentioned by the user, and it is taking another function as parameter. So this is like the best and the simplest example for callback functions in general. Now, if I run this node JS, test.js, okay, do I have something else? Okay, so this, ignore this. What is the chat? Anonymous functions cannot be reused. Sorry, I didn't get your question. No, I mean, there's no concept such as anonymous function. We just gave it a fancy term as callback function because we're not really stating another function, right? You could always give this a name and just make it opposite of anonymous, whatever that word is. But the whole idea here is that a function is being called inside a function. That is the major idea here to talk about callbacks. Yeah, I was showing you this. I hope the terminal thing is visible. So if you see node KS, if I run the file, you will see, let us start the session, end session, please. It's waiting for a certain time duration and then putting in ask the class is boring, right? That means if it would have been an ideal JavaScript code, line 325 would have run first, and then the set timeout would have worked. And then the console.log end session please would work, right? But here, because we're passing this particular function with this 5000 value, it has to wait. So that is breaking the synchronous nature of JavaScript, right? Because we are supposed to go from top to down, line by line. So this is the need of the hour, I would say. Like we also did one example, digital clock, where I asked you guys to print the time every 3 seconds. So that was to give you the whole idea that, you know, it can be asynchronous. There has been the need, and that is why people build something like that, right? So callbacks have been pretty boring, okay, because I don't think we do that even in our generation. If we see a call, instead of doing a callback, we'll just drop a text on WhatsApp and be like, yeah, hey, you called, so that the people can just reply, right? Maybe I do that. So I'm talking about from my experience. So now what they did was they said that, okay, there's like a lot of confusion, like function inside function. What if there's some error from our end, and error handling has been difficult, a lot of like random reasons. So they come up with something, then they find issues in it, and then they build up something else. So what these guys did was they came up with something called promise, async, and await. Okay, so we'll first talk about promise. Can you tell me how promises really work in like our real life? Not the promise in JavaScript, but a promise in general with any in between two human beings. Can anyone tell me that? What, is everyone sleeping on a Monday evening? No, you can just unmute and explain. We ought to complete our promise. No, that's not mandatory. I don't think people really complete their promises, but I just want to know the possible scenarios that can happen if you're making a promise to someone. Just speak up. I don't want chats right now. We're anyway gonna have like a very chill session with like all theory stuff. I think it's better to talk. complete or break it, giving assurance. Okay. So the fact is, if I make a promise to you, okay, I'm like, okay, fine. If you complete and if you attend all the classes that I'm taking for JS and Solidity, I'll give you maybe $1,000 in the end. No, $1,000 is a lot. 1,000 rupees, fine. That is what I can afford. So I'll give you 1,000 rupees in the end, right? So that's a promise that I made. Now it's totally on you if you actually fulfill it or like resolve it or reject it. Okay, like either complete it or you break it. Okay, so $1,000, let's go. No, that's a lot, bro. I can't afford it. So back, yeah. So we're saying that you either fulfill it or you break it, right? So similarly, there's a thing called resolve in promise, and there's a thing called reject in promise. And then in between these two, state called pending. Okay. So basically, suppose you have all that energy that Prisha has, and you go with like, okay, she's gonna give us $1,000. Let's start, right? And you start working on it. So it's somewhere a state between fulfilling the promise and breaking the promise, right? In JavaScript terms, it's about resolving a promise and rejecting a promise, and there's a pending state. So what we basically do is, I give you a criteria that, okay, if you fulfill the promise, that is resolve the promise, you get 1,000 rupees. If you reject the promise, you give me 1,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees. Okay. So there is like a resolve statement, there's a reject statement. Now it can be anything. It can be an error message, it can be a general statement or whatsoever, right? I can say that it basically works like an if else. Instead of if else, we have resolve and reject, right? So that is how promises work in general. I'll show you this code. Yeah. So if you see, like, just take a overlook of this piece of code, you will see that a new promise was, created. We'll talk about the syntax later, but just take a look at the terms that I've already mentioned. So I've already talked about promise as a term. I've talked about resolve as a term, and I've talked about reject as a term, right? So there's a if else condition here, which says that whatever I'm talking about, right? If session completed, yeah, if all session completed. Here we are printing promise is resolved successfully and then method will be called. Instead, if I'm talking about the current example that I gave you, I would say, okay, promise is resolved successfully and Sneha needs to give Prisha 1,000 rupees. Okay, else reject, promise is rejected and catch method will be called. In this case, it will be like, oh, promise is broken. So Prisha is supposed to give 5,000 rupees to Sneha. So that is how it goes, right? It's a resolve and it's a reject. Okay. And then you see very English language friendly words here. Okay. And there's a dot then method, which will always work in case of result. Okay. So it's like, if you do this, then I will do this. Okay. If you complete all sessions, then I'll pay you 1,000 rupees. So this then keyword has to go in your mind and be like, okay, then keyword or then a method will always be called when a promise has been resolved. Okay, else it will be a catch statement. Okay, so if your promise is getting rejected, there will be a catch statement to be executed. Okay, now I hope this should work in the browser. Just let me check. To go live. So is the concept of promise and resolve and reject clear as of now with whatever we have talked already? This is So this is basically gonna run in the console segment. There's some issue with the HTML.
Hello.
Yeah.
For this type of code, there will be two conditions. Like one we have put in if else block and the one in resolve and reject. Like the 1,000 rupees thing is in resolve, and here's another condition which is in if block.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing as see, basically we're not putting conditions here. Okay. So it's saying that there's one condition. Now that condition can either be resolved or reject. Okay. But if it is resolved, this particular event should happen. So it's like a series of events that happening. Okay. You can see it as nested situations here. One particular condition, either resolved or reject. If resolved, then message. If rejected, catch method. Do you see the workflow here in terms of the execution?
So the message written in the resolve, will that be shown as well somewhere?
Yeah. So that is what I was trying to basically show you here. This is not basically working for me. I mean, no, sorry, it's not gonna be HTML file. Trying to run it in the console, but it's for some reason it's not working. My laptop is behaving very weird these days. So I would see okay, maybe any one of you try running this code in your browser.
Yes, it is running.
Running, right? Yeah.
Yes.
It's not running in my, maybe because I have an ad blocker or something. There are some times when these promises and stuff not run. That is an issue I faced before. So I've put the code. You guys can also try, and you will see that, see, whatever condition that I've put here, right? If I put the condition as 10 and I run it, that will be rejected, because only when the condition is less than 0, then the resolve segment will work. If it is if it's like -1 or something, then the resolve thing will work, and this particular segment has to be printed. So that is what we mean when we say, okay, dot then message. Now, why is it taking automatically? Is because we know that there's something under resolve, and that will only work after resolve is working, right? So it will already take stuff as, okay, dot then will take resolve statement, and dot catch will take rejects statement. So that is how we go forward with. So you can just try, copy pasting the code and try running it. If there are certain extensions in Chrome that can create trouble for you guys, but if it has worked for someone, it will work for the rest of the people also. If it's not, it's just the extension thing that's creating havoc. So I'll give you 5 minutes, try running it. I want maximum of the people to run it. And if once you've done it, just put it in the chat that, okay, you have run the particular piece of code, and is it working for you or not? Is there an error that is displayed? In some browser segments, it will display you the error that you have this particular extension that is creating trouble. Yeah, it will. Good. So there are a few people who try writing the code during the session, which is a good thing. There are certain pieces of code that I take a lot of time to explain, because I know that there are multiple segments where you can get stuck. So it's good if you guys, like maximum of you guys, try writing the code and running it in your Visual Studio Code, because I'm pasting the code in the chat, right? It's like a lot of mix. If somebody else looks at these files, I'm not gonna understand it. So I really don't want that for you guys. So just try writing the code. Okay, so it's working for a lot of people, but I've got replies from 3-4 people, and we are 45 participants. So I need majority of people to do it, like attempt for it. We want to have the maximum participation. That is how things should work. Okay, it's working. Good, good. Those who are still having issues, in talking, you guys should just try it once. Once you get the knack of talking during the sessions, speaking up every time I ask a question, you would never want other people to speak up. At least that is how I process. Bhumika, are you there? Okay, so Bhumika is basically trying to take some time off from her Monday duties. I think, Prajakta, are you there? Oh, I love that name. Okay, it's working. Yeah, Sairamani has sent the screenshot. So that is how it's gonna look in your browser. Wow, now I'm not able to cross out the picture. Let me close it. Okay, so cool. It's working for a lot of people. It should work for the rest of you also. Again, if there are some extensions, just try disabling the extensions for a while and then run it. Now we'll come to the syntax. Okay, so just like we've talked a lot about syntaxes all this while during these sessions, right? There are always these multiple ways to write a particular thing. You can just declare it using let, you can just declare it using const, or there will be a new keyword, whatever ways, right? So for promises also, we're doing something like that. The first syntax that you see from line 182 to 180, you will see that let p is equals to new promise. There's always two parameters that is being passed with these promises, that is resolve and reject. Okay, and then you can see that this is being listed or written as an arrow function, right? You can see the arrow there. So inside the curly braces, you have the body of the promise. That is the instructions, whatever goes with resolve, whatever goes with reject, right? So that is how the promise thing has been working. Then that is one way to write it. The second way goes as const promise equals to new promise resolve reject and the conditions. Okay, so you can just replace let as const, and in that case that let is basically to justify the arrow function. So you can even use that keyword. Then you can see that this is the example that I've given, that if you're writing a const promise equals to new promise and resolve reject, then let condition. If condition is met, this should be under resolve, else reject promise is rejected. Okay, and then there will be my promise dot then console dot log. You don't have to necessarily write dot catch, it's on you, but this is how it goes, right? So that's like most of the code in that case. Now for async and await, I will show you like real examples. Okay, but we got to understand how async and await is actually working. Okay, so wait, let me check if I've covered everything for promise. Yeah, okay. So I'll show you a piece of code, but before that, async and await is when we're talking about, bringing in asynchronous functions again. Now, async, that is A-S-Y-N-C, async keyword is itself more than enough to give the computer a hint that, okay, here we're talking about asynchronous functions. And with every async comes a keyword called await. Okay, and that await is basically to show that, okay, this particular piece of thing is working under async, and this is what should be printed once that sync function has completed. So it can be any output and stuff. Async and await are executed inside the promise segment as well, and Okay, wait. Let me show you the code. Into files. Okay. Okay. So I'll show you a very heavy piece of code. Don't get overwhelmed with that. Okay. Can everyone see the file?
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay. So this is one of the files. You can I think see the name. It's FEVM Hard Hat Kit main. So Filecoin has like recently launched its like EVM compatible platform or layer that helps you deploy smart contracts on top of it. Initially, you could just transfer data and all of that, but now you can do interactions as well through the smart contracts. So I took a session for the Filecoin people. And we had to show how smart contracts are basically deployed inside or on FEVM. Okay, so I'll show you multiple things. Okay, so this is gonna be like you got to keep async and await on hold for some time, and I'll show you how it connects. So there's a contracts folder, right? You see a basic Solidity example that goes for simple coin. They've written some simple coin smart contracts, and inside that you have like Filecoin API example that's talking about deal rewarder.sol. Now every Solidity file will have a .sol extension, SOL. Okay, this is like too crazy. I don't even understand what are all of these. I'm just showing you what files are inside these smart contracts and other files, and how are we gonna like basically break it once you're trying to understand. Then there's the library thing is just like that. Sorry. Inside deploy, you see a deploy.js code, right? You see a .js extension, and it quickly clicks that okay, this is gonna be a JavaScript file, right? So coming to this, you've already seen this keyword, right? Require keyword, and then there's thing called hard hat deploy, then there's hard hat deploy ethers and blah blah, right? So this require is basically a module, okay, or a keyword that helps you import any necessary module or library or a package that you want, and you don't have it installed, and it can just fetch it from there. Okay, so here what we're doing is we're doing a hard hat deploy, we're importing it, and then a hard hat deploy ethers. We are going to talk about hard hat as well when we do the Solidity sessions. Right now, let's focus here. Then there's this thing called const network config. Okay, wait, let's do this. Instead of me explaining this piece of code, I want someone else to explain the piece of code. Someone who has been a very beginner in JavaScript but has been attending the sessions. Not someone who has built project before or used React before. I want someone uh, who was doing JavaScript with us for the first time or had a very basic knowledge of JavaScript before. I want someone to volunteer. Anybody? Come on. Come on, quick. Anybody volunteer. There's no wrong or right answers. There's no getting stuck. There's no getting embarrassed if you don't need, if you don't know how to explain the code. It's just us learning together. It's fine. Do you think I am able to explain all lines of code to you? No, I mean, I should be. I'm your mentor. But yeah, it was difficult for me as well. So just come on. We are definitely going to help you, but let's do it. Let's see how much has the JavaScript helped you for the last 6 weeks. Is an absolute beginner able to understand these pieces of code? Because that is what I promised, right? I believe that the way I teach, I should be able to help a absolute beginner understand the JavaScript code at least. If they're not able to write it, it's fine. Yeah, I saw someone speaking. I can't see you on screen. Who was trying to speak? Mm, okay, if someone, come on, girls, volunteer, or else I'll just choose someone randomly. That's the worst thing to do. Okay, then you'll feel more bad and you won't have time for preparation also. So just come on, anybody who has started with us, who had very basic knowledge of JavaScript. Let's try. Let's give it a try. Okay, I think people want me to choose randomly. Nobody who wants to volunteer. Everybody knew JavaScript before we started cohort.
I can try, but I don't understand the complete code.
It's fine. It's totally fine. We just love if you just volunteer yourself and
So just now, as you said, require is when we want to import something which is not in our project. So the first two lines will import the hard hat deploy and hard hat deploy ethers module or file which we want in our project. Then we have created a constant for network configuration. I think this is a constant. Here we will store all the array details in the form of array there from this module of helper hard hat configuration, because from there also we are importing something. And then we have a private key which is basically coming from an array accounts array which का 0th index से हम लोग वो data ले रहे हैं for private key. And for wallet we are taking it from this is a module. We have created a new instance of that module wallet, and उससे हमने private key और ethers dot provider को pass किया है. I think so. And then we are exporting something module dot exports. यहाँ पे हमने async function लगाया है so that asynchronous उसको बनाने के लिए. And yeah, I don't understand after that.
okay. So see, I'll tell you. Okay, so very good. This is what we are actually trying to do. Okay, so there are certain things, right? There's ethers.provider that you wouldn't know. There's network.config.chain ID that you wouldn't know, right? Even I don't know. Who remembers all these modules? If they have a name that's easy to remember, it's fine. You can just read it and figure out, right? So I would want someone to Google what ethers.provider does. And tell me, quick. I'll also Google, but my phone has very less battery. Come on, girls. At least if you're not speaking, just try to Google it.
It is something like that will give access to Ethereum network to us. Yeah, I get that much only. It is something like that.
Yeah, so it's basically it's like it will give you access to the blockchain data on whatever network you're talking about. Okay. So see, what we're doing is she has already explained this, right? Then there's this thing called const private key is equals to network.configure.account 0. Okay. So generally when you're talking about accounts at 0, it's always the owner's account. Okay. Always the person who is trying to deploy the smart contract, trying to do everything, or whosoever is the whole sole owner of the contract, that contract is stored at 0. So maybe they're talking about, that whatever accounts that we have at 0, okay, network.config, and I hope everyone knows the concept of public key and private key. So there's this thing called public key that is available to all of us. Okay, it's like your bank account number, if in layman terms. And then there's this private key, which can be your ATM pin number, or your UPI pin number, which we doesn't really want to share, because if you give that access of a UPI pin or ATM pin to people, they can just easily take your money and have access over all your accounts. Okay, so everything that's secret, that is to be kept as a secretive data, can be called as the private key, right? So every wallet that you create, it will give you a public account address and a private key. That private key is always supposed to be your private key. You shouldn't reveal it. If somebody has the access to your private key, they can manipulate your wallet, take funds, send funds, do illegal stuff. Then we're saying const wallet equals to new ethers.wallet private key, comma, ethers provide. So what is basically they're talking about, they're trying to, so ethers.wallet. Okay. So you can see that there's like, since we're importing this hard hat deploy ethers, we are making use of that particular modules, built-in modules that comes under ethers. Okay. So there's two JavaScript libraries that are commonly used when we talk about Web3 development. One is web3.js and the other one is ethers.js, right? So it's fetching ethers.wallet and it's talking about your private key, and ethers.provider. That is whatever the data that you want to access. Okay. Then it's doing a module.exports. Now, module.exports. Here we're talking about exporting a module. Now, let's see what happens inside. Getting a lot of chat. Allows communication between a decentralized application and Ethereum blockchain. Ethers.js library provides several options which should cover the vast majority use case. Yeah. So all of that. Now, we use the async keyword, which is telling the computer that, okay, hold on. Here we're talking about making JavaScript asynchronous. So we got to fetch something, we got to add something that's going to take a lot of time. So we can just move to the next line once we have put this code in execution, right? Then you see an arrow. So that is why it's an arrow function. Okay. Console. Yeah.
Just a bit. This is an anonymous function, right? Like modules.exports. After that, it must have a name. Maybe. Is it an anonymous function?
Yeah. I mean, see, whenever you're using require as well, right? It's automatically referring to exporting a module, right? So we have mentioned here. So you can parallelly use a module.exports keyword that is doing all the work that require is supposed to do. And you a link about how the require thing is working. So if you read that, you will wait. I'll send you the link right away. And it will talk about how required. Yeah. So it says that the moment you use node.js by default, which supports like the common JS module format. So what happens is all the loading of the modules will happen through the required function, and all the exporting of those modules will happen through module.exports. I'll send it to you on 100 GIB, so all of you can check it. Paste. Yeah. So this is what you can look into. Yeah, the link. So that is what we're talking about. like we are basically trying to export things. Now you'll see how it goes, right? But since it's written as async and we're not really referring to a function name here particularly, you can call it an anonymous function. But we generally talk about anonymous functions when we are referring callback function where we're not referring the name of the function, right? Here we're not really talking about callback functions. Do you get my point?
Yeah, okay. So we won't call it an anonymous function.
No. Then there's a console.log wallet Ethereum address, and you see wallet.address. So it's printing wallet when you run this file. Okay, it will go as wallet Ethereum address and then wallet.address. So it's fetching here. There was a keyword here, and then it was doing a wallet dot address. So you're getting the address there. Then there's const chain ID equals to network dot config dot chain ID. So every network has its own chain ID. Once we see, you know, how MetaMask and these wallets are adding network in itself, you will see that there's a lot of data. There's network name, there's these URLs, and there's this thing called RPC something, then there's chain ID. So you're getting all of that from the network. So even Filecoin network has its own chain ID, so they're taking that. Then there's const tokens to be minted, which goes from network config chain ID and tokens to be minted. Okay, now it's just trying to fetch something. These pieces of code are pretty difficult to understand, but a lot of these deployment scripts are by default written in their docs, and you need to do a certain changes according to your program. Okay, now chain ID is a unit given for a blockchain network. Yes. So there's this number. It can be anything 786 or with whatever data. And that's the ID that is used for that particular network. So when you're trying to add it in a MetaMask wallet or so, or even in the piece of code, I'll show you a few files that has the chain ID that gives you the verification that, okay, this is the correct network that we're referring to. Okay, then we're talking about deploy simple coin. So simple coin is the smart contract that I showed you here, right? So we're not getting into what simple coin basically is, but we're going to see this. So there's const simple coin await ethers.get contract factory simple coin comma wallet, right? So get contract factory is a library, no, built-in method, built-in function, whatever, inside the ether.js library, which helps you create a new smart contract or does the initialization. So you're giving it the name simple coin, and then you're passing this wallet data. You're passing this wallet because this smart contract has to be created or initiated from your ID. Okay, like your particular account address. You're passing that wallet, right? Now you should see that this whole async has this await first. Okay, so once you execute this line of code, the whole thing is done. There will be a console.log saying deploying simple coin. Okay, again the other await will run, the other await will run. So every async will have its own await, or there will be like multiple awaits inside it, and you will see how things are working. So first thing will get executed, and then it will wait, or it will print whatsoever it is supposed to print. So it's like it will help you pause the entire function, or sorry, makes the function pause the execution and wait for that particular statement to execute. Like it's all happening in the background. Okay, but if you're doing it, you will see I won't be able to run this right now because there's some updates and stuff that is happening. I'll have to go to the Filecoin network, get the test tokens and stuff. But you will see that once those things are happening, whatever time it's taking, it will print like this thing, or it will print something as like after that console.log. So that gives us an idea that okay, this particular execution has happened, and or we have to wait for that particular thing, and once it's happened, another line of code will execute, or it has already started execution. It's exactly like skipping that particular piece of line of code because it's going to take time to execute while it's running in the background, and rest of the lines will execute. So you're doing a console.log, that's easy. Then there's const simple coin is equals to await simple coin dot deploy tokens to be minted. Right? So first deployment of simple coin was happening. Once the deploy has happened, it is talking or it's putting in tokens to be minted. Now it will await till the whole thing with the exact data has been deployed, and then you have to say console.log simple coin deployed to simple coin dot address, right? So you got to wait for a certain time, then a particular console.log inside that statement is working. And all of this is happening inside async. And a wait keyword can never exist without an async keyword. Okay, so you got to remember that. There will always be an async and there can be multiple awaits inside it. Okay. Similarly, there's another smart contract called Filecoin Market Consumer. It's doing the same thing. Again, ethers.get contract factory, console.log deploying it, then again dot deployed, all of that. So if you see, you just need to know these terms. Okay, what is dot get contract factory doing? What will dot? So dot deploy is very easy to understand, right? That it's deploying it. Okay, but there was something else. Yeah, what is ethers.provider doing? What is wallet.address doing? What is network.config.chain ID doing? So then you will be like easily be able to connect the dots that, okay, this piece of code is doing this. So again, another question. Are you guys at least able to understand the terms that are written in JavaScript? I'm not talking about these built-in functions that we are importing with ethers. Okay, that is something else. You got to know the built-in function. Until and unless you use a maths.random or a .char at built-in, you wouldn't know what that thing is doing, right? If you don't know about that language. So I'm not worried about you not knowing what ethers.get contract factory is doing, or you're not able to decode what that particular piece of line of code is doing. But what I want to understand is that, are you able to understand that particular piece of JavaScript code that is written? Is it making sense to you? Are you like facing any difficulties? Yeah, again, the same people are responding. I know that if you're paying attention and you're doing the effort from your end, it's definitely gonna be easy, but I want other people to answer. Yes, ma'am, somewhat we are understanding. Okay, good. Good that you're honest. Uh, okay, people who are absolute beginners, it's a good progress if you're understanding the code. I don't expect you to understand everything. Even if I get like a very complicated piece of JavaScript code, and if somebody would have shown me this piece of code in a session, I would get baffled. I was like, okay, what is this shit, right? But if you're able to at least recognize the terms, recognize that, okay, this is an arrow function. Oh, this is what we are passing. Okay, this is the print statement. It will be so people who are just saying that people who have just sent me direct message that you're not able to understand it on that extent, it is just somewhat okay. Can you just tell me? Okay, can you? Yeah, coming back first. Can you just tell me what is it that you feel getting stuck? Have you been complete beginners who have just started understanding the syntax and everything, or what is it that you feel stuck on? Okay. So I want answers from those people. Okay, complete beginners. Okay, that's fine. If you're able, see, understanding a syntax is gonna take time, right? But if you're able to like figure it out to some extent, it's good. It will take more practice. There's one more question. Some people are asking me, okay, can you tell us what exactly is wallet in this code? Okay, so people who are very new to Web3, most of us are, right? Wallet here is a digital wallet that we are talking about, just like for your banking stuff, right? Earlier, when our dads or when our grandfathers used to use bank, they would always have to carry this bank passbook and go fill a form to get the money, to submit the money, right? There was no system of UPI. There was nothing as Google Pay or Paytm wallet and other stuff, right? But now we have all of those features, all of those digital functionalities of functionalities of a bank are put inside a digital application that we call as wallet. So all of you must know how Paytm wallet works, right? Or Phone Pay as a wallet works. So you can always have some money stored. You can directly contact your bank through the application and send or pay at some point, some shop or stuff. Similarly, because as at this point, banks are not supporting cryptocurrencies, they're only talking about fiat currencies, that is cash or the currency that we're using in our respective countries, and we can't store cryptocurrencies. People came up with digital wallets that completely support cryptocurrencies. Okay, so what you can do with these wallets is you can store your tokens in it, you can store NFTs in it, you can send tokens, you can receive tokens, and blah blah. So all of those wallets have a particular address. Okay, for your Google Pay or Paytm or your Phone Pay, there's a UPI ID, right? That UPI ID points to your wallet in general, and people can just send you directly money to your UPI. And that money, if that UPI is connected to your bank account, it goes to your bank account, right? People are not even asking you for your bank account number or IFSC codes. They're just asking, okay, can you tell me that UPI ID? So similarly, these digital wallets that we're talking about for holding cryptocurrencies, they have their account address. Okay, every wallet will have its separate account address. It exactly is like your UPI ID or your bank account number. So people can just have that address, which is visible to all, and they can send you money, send you crypto tokens and other stuffs through that address. Okay, so that is what wallet is referring. Now, what wallet.address is doing is that fetching that address. Now, I don't think many of you know this, but when we're talking about smart contracts or writing that piece of code called smart contracts, anything that you initiate, okay, any particular event that you're going to do, it's going to initiate a transaction on your wallet. Okay, you can't just be like, okay, yeah, okay, sent, okay, the money is sent. No, since all of this data has to be transparent, stored on a blockchain, every time you're like, okay, send money to Sneha, click on a particular event happening in your smart contract, a pop-up will happen. A MetaMask is one of the digital wallets that we commonly use. It's Ethereum compatible. So a MetaMask pop-up will happen saying that, okay, this transaction has been initiated by this smart contract. Do you sign this transaction? Okay. Now, signing is again a way of securing it, right? If you're taking, suppose, a leave, right? And your teacher has asked that, no, get signature of your parents. That signature of your parents is a symbol that it has been approved. Now, you might forge that signature if you really don't want to tell your parents that, you've asked for a leave. But when you're doing it digitally, that signature is happening through your wallet, through a lot of cryptographic algorithms behind that wallet. That's happening. So wallet.address is exactly fetching the address of the person who has initiated the transaction, who's running that smart contract. That is why it's referred to as wallet here, and it's taking private key and that ethers.provider for the data and everything. So is the wallet fact clear? Whosoever asked it, is it clear? I think Geeta asked. Okay. So girls, I'll tell you, there are a lot of terms that you won't understand in this piece of code, and it will be very confusing. If you starting into all of those terms, we will just go in random directions. We've already talked about wallets. We've already talked about ether.js. We've already talked about private key. It's gonna confuse your mind. So don't worry. This is anyway the last JavaScript class. Once we start with diving into Solidity, a lot of the initial class will go on these digital wallets, remix platform, EVM, blah, blah, blah. So I'll structure it that way. And once we come back to this code after a few Solidity sessions, you will be able to understand how things are working. So don't worry. I'll explain everything in detail. So don't put your mind into that. The whole idea of showing you this JavaScript code was to check if you are able to understand this piece of code, if async and await is making sense to you and stuff. So we'll do something similar. We will go to okay. Till the time I look for the right file. Where is it? Yeah. Okay. No, this. Okay. Can someone explain me this piece of code? Like this is of JavaScript only. Can someone explain it to me? See, this is how we're going to deal with most of the sessions now. I can't keep explaining like 50 lines of code on my own. I need people to volunteer and to try if they're able to understand things or not. It's with proper comments and everything. You should be able to do it. If you're not able to find a particular word, just Google it right away. We are ready to give you the time. But I just can't keep blabbering. All the concepts that we want to learn in JavaScript is done. Now you know how callbacks work, you know how promises work, you know how async and await works. And whatever JavaScript deployment files that I will open, you will see async and await. Let me show you new files. Wait. Till then, I need someone to volunteer. Come on, quick. Oh.
I would like to try for this one.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe this is like for the first line, we are setting some sort of variable name here, sendcoin, and it's what it does is in the second after the comma, like it sends simple coin, and then add params is like we have added parameters for task arguments in set action. So basically we have added contract, amount, and to account. So in the set action function, we have put the values there. Like you can see const contract address is there. जैसे वो add param में contract था. So task arg से जो उधर से contract आया होगा, that would have been in contract address. Similarly for all three, it is done. And here const wallet is what we did in previous file. It is similar. Yeah, it is similar code only. And for simple coin, here is this that smart contract that we are going to deploy.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, right. People can see that there's a task that they're talking to about send coin, and we know that since we've written send simple coin, right? So since we were declaring or writing a smart contract about simple coin deployment, there might be like a few tokens in the contract. Just try to make a guess. Okay, you can't just be like, okay, I need to, like, I am supposed to tell you everything and then you have to figure out. If you see these pieces of code, you should be able to figure out that okay, there might be some coins that needs to be sent or that is being sent according to the smart contract code. Okay, then there's dot add param in terms of contract amount and to account, right? And what these guys do is that they call a dot set action. They're saying that, okay, this is going to take time because it's declaring as async, and they're passing the whole task arguments as parameter. Okay. And inside that body, they're showing that, okay, store task args as usable variables, right? So they've created three const values, contract address, amount, and to account. And they're fetching it from the task arguments as task args dot contract, task args dot amount, and task args dot to account, right? And they're storing all of it inside these variables, right? Then there's line 11, line number 12, that is doing a const wallet equals to new ethers dot wallet network dot config dot accounts, it's 0 ethers dot provider. Now, I already told you that whenever we're talking about this, we are trying to create a new wallet instance, okay, and we are fetching or we are saying that, okay, this is stored at accounts is 0, it will mostly be the account address or position of the person who's creating all of, okay. Then create a simple coin contract factory. That is how you get with, that is what you get with ethers.get contract factory, simple coin.wallet. So you wait for the initialization of that smart contract. And then you see creates a simple contract instance. This is what you will call to interact with the deployed contract. Okay. So once you're doing const simple coin contract equals to await simple coin dot attach contract address. So now they're using this attach keyword or method, and they're fetching the contract address. So that is how we're gonna interact, right? And then once that await has executed, you will see a console.log sending this amount, simple coin, to this particular account. So if that they very clearly mentioned that, okay, and we basically need one value as amount and the other value as account, right? Then you have to send a transaction to call the send coin method. So you're seeing this is a basic declaration of a transaction thing. This says await simple coin contract dot send coin, and this. So it will wait till the whole process is happening. Then there will be const receipt await transaction dot wait. So it will wait for the whole transaction to be fetched if they're talking receipt. Then there will be a result value that is taking big int await simple coin on contract or get balance to string. That means that basically what they're trying to do is they might have like a value in integer and they're trying to convert it into to string. Okay, so they've initially taken it as big integer and then they're trying to convert it into to string. And then once all of this is done, console.log total simple coin whatever account is this. So whatever total value is in that particular account, you get that value. So that's basic, right? If you're writing something like a smart contract that you want to deploy and you want to show how the whole execution is happening, if this will happen when it is deployed, this will happen when that happens, blah, blah. That is how you write it. That is how you figure it. So all of these deployment scripts and all of that stuff will be in JavaScript. Okay, you can declare tasks. Now you can see that inside tasks, there's so many JavaScript files. There's a deal rewarder, so that has add cid.js. That is like ultimate. Shit, I forgot the name. What is it? What is the name? Oh, yeah, this is ultimate gibberish, gibberish, whatever it is pronounced. So I also don't understand how things are working. I was just supposed to teach the smart contract deployment. I don't go into all these files. But I'm saying is that since I know the language, since you guys know the language now, it should be easy for you to figure out, even though you don't know these terms. If you start Googling, you'll get that missing and you'll be able to figure out. So, okay, I think, yeah, this was all. Transaction, wait, bounty contract. So you see all these tasks have been separately created. These are like top level projects. The main team has done it. I'll show you something else. Is someone able to see the new piece of, new screen of Visual Studio Code? under this crypto stack master thing? Are you able to see it?
No, we are on that previous thing.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing. Okay, I have to show you crypto stack. So close game. Okay. Share screen. Yeah. So I hope you'll be able to see it. So this is a project that I did for like a hackathon last year. It's a decentralized Q&A marketplace, which is rewarding people for answering, and like the person who does the answer right is getting tokens if it is approved by the community, and there's an NFT marketplace, the platform as well. So it was a good project back then. We won something 80,000 INR for this project. So, okay, yeah. So this is one file, right? Now you can see that there's a new promise and stuff. So someone who can decode this piece of code. I want like more effort. See what exist.sync is doing. See what web3.eth.accounts is doing. Like you can do it while you're trying to explain it. It's fine because this is how you're gonna see like real use cases. Or we can do is I can take you through the web3.js or ether.js documentation and we can start reading it. Whatever ways that works for you. If you want to do the project thing, we can do that. Or we can go to the web3.js or ethers.js doc and we can start like looking into a few built-in methods and stuff. What is it that you guys wanna go forward with? Come on, speak up. Why are people dropping off? I know it's difficult. It's not gonna be easy. It's the latest technology. You got to put in like a lot of effort. So just don't drop off because of that. If you're finding it difficult, it's gonna get easier with time. Anyway, I think people are not gonna respond. So I'll just go to the documentation because the code is definitely seeming pretty difficult for you guys. It's okay. Let's come here. Okay. My laptop is taking time to load. Okay. I will try sharing screen. Okay. I hope everyone's able to see the Web3 this screen, web3.js.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So see, okay. Now you can see that the web3.js official document itself starts with callbacks, promises, and events. So it has like a lot of utility when it comes to that. Okay. So it says that to help Web3 integrate into all kinds of projects with different standards, we provide multiple ways to act on asynchronous functions. Most web3.js objects allow callback as the last parameter, as well as returning promises to chain functions, right? So they're basically saying that again, if you want something to be as asynchronous, we are giving you a lot of options in terms of callbacks, in terms of promises and other stuff. Now, if you see this, Ethereum as a blockchain has different levels of finality and therefore needs to return multiple stages of action, right? To cope with this requirement, we return a promi event for functions like web3.eth.send transaction or contract methods. So the promi event is a promise combined with an event emitter to allow acting on different stages of action on the blockchain like a transaction. can see this random thing, right? But you don't need to understand this. You just need to understand that since they've built this separate library for Web3 in general, all they're talking about, they don't care about how JavaScript works. They're just talking about callbacks, promises, and events, because that is what is going to be required when you're dealing with all of that. Now we'll go to Web3 first thing, right? This is the main or umbrella class of web3.js library. You can see var web3 equals to required web3. So that is how you're like importing web3 modules or libraries, right? And okay, web3.modules are multiple modules. You don't need to understand that. We will go with something that we have seen right now. Did we see web3.contract? No, we were looking at ethers.js, but it's fine. If you see something like this in the code, you will see that web3.e.contract object makes it easy to interact with smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. When you create a new contract object, you give it the JSON interface of the respective smart contract, and Web3 will auto convert all calls into low-level ABI calls over RPC for you. Okay, jargon terms. Okay. Basic logic behind this web3.e.contract allows you to interact with smart contracts as if they were JavaScript objects. Now we have already understood that everything inside JavaScript is an object, right? So this web3.eth.contract, wherever you see it, you should be able to understand that, okay, this is basically allowing us to interact with smart contracts, right? If you want to create a new contract, you go as new web3.eth.contract, JSON interface, address, options, blah, blah, blah. There are various parameters, various ways where you can put it, right? Now, I'll show you something as, okay. See, there's so many versions of it. Wait, let us, I didn't show you an example for web3.js. So what we'll do is we'll go to ethers.js. Just a moment. Okay, so if you look into this, that is .js file, right? The major documentation comes here where they're saying that they're making a complete and compact library for just interacting with Ethereum blockchain and its ecosystem, right? So Ethers itself is giving you that thing that, okay, that only gonna interact with like Ethereum blockchain or Ethereum compatible blockchain, right? So there's a way of installing, importing. Let's go to common terminology and see. So they're talking about provider, they're talking about signer, they're talking about contract. So you don't need to know about provider and signer right now. We'll discuss that in like coming classes. But if you have to see it in a gist, already talked about MetaMask as the wallet, digital wallet. It is a browser extension. We'll do like a whole setup of MetaMask and everything about Web3 in the next class, like basics of Web3 and MetaMask and stuff. And so connection to the Ethereum network, we're talking about provider, and the one who's holding your private key and can sign things for you is a signer, right? Now, if you see here, you've seen something is this like ethers.providers.web3 provider or window.ethereum or provider.send get signer. So just explaining everything. Web3 provider wraps a standard Web3 provider, which is what MetaMask injects as window.ethereum into each page. Damn, everything looks so complicated, right? But over time, it's gonna like simplify as much as possible. Like we are going to simplify it as much as possible, right? These all will be like random stuff you. We have something as Ethereum. Okay. Provider API keys. Etherscan, Infura. No. This is the issue when it comes to like reading docs. If you're using it according to the need, you know it. You know how things shall work, right? See, now if people are talking about wallets that we have seen, right? Ethers.wallet, ethers.create random. These are wallet.address, right? So you know that like I showed you a code that was using wallet.address, and somebody asked me, is that wallet here? So I explained what wallet is, right? But wallet.address, the address for the account this wallet represents. So if I'm writing the smart contract, it's importing my wallet, and wallet.address is getting the address of my wallet, right? Wallet.provider. So the provider this wallet is connected to, which will be used for any blockchain methods, right? Wallet.public key. So the uncompressed public key for the wallet. So every word has a different meaning, and you're only gonna get an idea of all of these extra terms when you use it in your code, or if you're trying to do something with the code, you will know that okay, this is what I might need, right? And then you would look for it, that how do you create a contract, new contract, or how do you sign transaction, how do you do contract interaction. So in that cases you will get idea of the methods, right? Let's see this one, deploying a contract, right? See, ethers.contract factory, right? All this while we've been talking about contract factory. What does it do? It creates a new contract factory which can deploy a contract to the blockchain. All this while we've been giving the name of the smart contract and then passing some wallet address. If you click on what contract factory is, the contract factory sends a special type of transaction, and init code, initial code transaction, that is the field is null and data field is init code, where the init code will be evaluated and the result becomes a new code to be deployed as a new contract. So basically, I know it's a lot overwhelming, but it will send a special type of transaction to initiate the creation of a whole new smart contract and help to deploy it. Okay. Contract factory, creating a new instance of a contract factory for the contract described by the interface. Okay, whatever, either you give these or you give the contract name or whatever. Contract factory dot from solidity. So it consumes the output of the solidity compiler that extracts the ABI and bytecode from it, allowing the various formats. So basically, if you're trying to use contract factory dot from solidity, it will try to convert whatever solidity output you've got, whatever bytecode you've got, all of it into like a different format which you need. That is what they're doing. Various formats the SOLC compiler has emitted over its life. So all of this will make sense only when you start writing, right? If you do contract factory.deploy, it will use the signer to deploy the contract with args passed into constructor and returns a contract which is attached to the address where this contract will be deployed once the transaction is minted, right? So we've already seen .deploy as well. So because it's like an easy English term, you know that, okay, it might be helping with the deployment. But this is how you got to understand when you're talking about an internal level interaction. You're using the signer. Signer had your private key to deploy the contract. With what? With the arguments that has been passed into the constructor, which will return a contract which is attached to the address, right? So you'll have to be like very patient, understand the flow, read things again and again, and then link things. Okay. So I think this is more than enough. Until and unless we get into Web3, I know a lot of you are very like beginner focused in Web3. Many of you might know what Web3 is. Many of you might not know what Web3 is. So until and unless we do that kind of discussion, all of this doesn't make sense to you. It will just overwhelm you. So we have got 20 minutes in hand. We can obviously finish early, but I would like to make use of the time to get an idea. Like, what is pretty overwhelming? Do you want me to go with like these documentations, read through and help you understand, and then bring in codes? Or do you want some other format to be followed? You can just shoot feedbacks regarding that. Has everyone dropped off? Was it that difficult? I did recommend you to go with the code explanation. That would have been much easier. But since you guys didn't say anything, I just showed you the doc. So, okay, giving codes and then figuring out from docs. So yeah, I mean, docs is only gonna contain maximum of the code examples. I can't like show all the projects and then talk about it. Yes, it was difficult to understand directly. Yeah, it will be. I know, like, what we can do is like, this is a pretty the ether.js documentation is a little complicated. If you look into Solidity documentation, um, you will find it like very simple, right? So maybe we'll figure out something like that. I'll have it, and Solidity code will take a lot of issues to run in Visual Studio Code. So we'll have to use Remix platform for the deployment and everything. So we'll try figuring out a way for that one as well. But I'm warning you already that it will be a lot of documentation reading, a lot. We can't figure out things on our own, and we can't just come up with new things and random examples. So you have to be the status like I got it but not got it. Yeah, it's fine. At least you're getting initially right. If you start diving in slowly and steadily with Web3, wallet, private key, public key, algorithms, and all of that, you will be able to understand it with time. You have to give time, a little time. It will take, I think, 3-4 classes for you, or maybe more than that, 4 to 6 classes for you to be comfortable with the language and stuff. By the time you'll be able to write code, like, and then do basic projects during the class. So it's okay. Anybody else who has another feedbacks? I'll try to make it simple. You've seen how I teach JavaScript, right? It will be a lot more difficult to teach Solidity, but I'll try to. It's quite overwhelming, but I think understanding the documentation from sample codes is much easier to adapt. Yeah, it will be. Since it's a ether.js was a JavaScript library documentation, it's a little complicated. If you look into Solidity and other stuff, it won't be that complicated. So we'll figure out that accordingly. Anybody who still has like a lot of issues with JavaScript, or just with the digital clock or calculator project, anything like that? Yeah. All of these functions will make a lot of sense once you start with Solidity. Doing the contract and everything will be easy. Okay, cool. So one person is saying everything is okay. So I hope like we are like around 31 people here, and